What is going on, FA Nation? My name is Justin Fensterman, along with Adam Ronis, and this is another edition of Fantasy Alarm Sports Talk. Ronis, it's a great time to be alive, to dominate in fantasy sports, core sports being back, fantasy football, dude, it's draft season, but most importantly, more importantly than all of that, the NBA playoffs, Ronis. How pumped are you about this time?
Yeah, definitely excited, man. The bubble I thought went really well. We had games all day. We had a lot of competitive games. We saw some teams that were even out of it playing their subs still play hard. And we knew there was going to be no drama in the Eastern Conference, but I don't think you could have asked for a better finish in the Western Conference. I think both of us would have been stunned if the San Antonio Spurs and the Phoenix Suns both had an opportunity to get into the play-in game on the final day of their regular season, and that's exactly what occurred. So I think it was great for the NBA. There's been really nothing going on negatively as far as COVID testing. The bubble has worked, and I think the excitement level is there, and I expect a good postseason. I don't know if the first round will be great as far as drama and upsets, but either way, I think this was a great couple of weeks here for the NBA.
We just need to know, were you invited as a guest to the bubble at all? Because now guests are starting to be allowed in, and I thought you'd be everybody's A-lister.
Well, yeah, a couple of females that are in there that work for the teams asked me to come, but I'm still weighing that decision because I know I'm needed here.
You are. Look at you prioritizing fantasy alarm work over your general interest of hanging out in the bubble and whatever activities are going on behind closed force field. Let's just say that. Ronis, let's talk about the playoffs. So let's start with the play-in contest. I almost said play-in game. It could be more than one game. Ronis, it almost didn't happen, and you would have blamed me. You said it would have been my fault. You
Not
said
me.
Well,
Someone
sure.
who listened to our show because we got into a pretty heated, I don't know if it was an argument, but a heated discussion the other night because you were automatically penciling in the Blazers in the playoffs. I'm like, wait, hold up. First of all, they got to get into the play-in game, then they got to win it. So while Portland was losing to Brooklyn last night, someone tweeted at me like, yo, you better smack Fensty if Portland loses this game. So Portland survived barely.
Yeah.
It was definitely a great effort by Brooklyn. I mean, we got to give Brooklyn a lot of credit in this bubble. I mean, they went 5-3 in the bubble, and I remember the odds for Orlando getting the 7th seed were ridiculous. Like, they were huge favorites because everyone counted this Brooklyn team out. Spencer Dinwiddie didn't go because of COVID. DeAndre Jordan. Then even the guys they brought in, Michael Beasley, he gets COVID-19. He can't go. Jamal Crawford barely played. He was hurt. But these guys showed a lot of heart, even though they were in the playoffs. They had the upset against the Bucks. The Bucks sat their starters in the second half. They beat the Clippers. Clippers sat. But still, we wouldn't have envisioned that happening. And they gave Portland everything they had. Karis LeVert went ham. I mean, Damian Lillard gave him a ton of credit after the game. I know he missed the shot late. Could have probably had a better shot or drove a little bit earlier. But either way, he had a huge game, 37 points, 9 assists, some big rebounds for Jared Allen. Joe Harris playing well. So give the Brooklyn Nets a ton of credit because they easily could have folded, laid down like we saw from some of the other teams earlier in the day. So Brooklyn deserves a lot of credit here. And Portland gutted this out. You know, they had a really, really difficult path here. We talked about it before numerous times that their schedule was really difficult. I think we all loved Portland as the team that could get in, but the schedule was definitely a problem compared to some of the other teams. But they were able to go 6-2, 4-point loss to the Celtics, 5-point loss to the Clippers where they should have won. Damian Lillard missed a couple of key free throws late, but Portland survived this. And now all they got to do is beat Memphis one time to get that 8th seed and play the Lakers in the first round. So Damian Lillard, though, once again, I mean, there's like, what can you say about this guy? And I've said it from the beginning. The playoffs are better with Damian Lillard in it. I mean, you want to see him with the game on the line, the pressure. He's so smooth, 8 3-pointers, 42 points. I mean, I thought his prop was high at 36.5 points. I almost put the over on the best bets, and I'm like, damn, 36.5 is high. Well, he went over it, so at 42 points. So Lillard crushing it, and C.J. McCollum playing with this fracture in his back. Couldn't tell against the Nets. I could tell the previous game when he was 2 of 14, but against the Nets, he had a big rebound late, sacrificing his body. So Portland, they needed a lot of work to be done, and they did it. Now they just need one more victory to advance to the postseason.
Let me tell you how you were wrong, Ronis, with something that you just said. You said everyone wanted Portland. That's not true. A lot of
Well,
people wanted
I
New
know.
Orleans. And I'm not trying to get at you. I'm almost making fun of those people because the NBA, a decent amount of people, they didn't even want New Orleans. They wanted Zion, specifically Zion. Who gives a damn about Brandon Ingram, right? I mean, we love Brandon Ingram, but come on, everybody's focused on Zion Williamson making it to the playoffs in his already shortened rookie campaign. And they didn't get that. They had a cake schedule. They blew it. They seemed out of it. I knew after they let the Jazz crawl back that first game, they were in trouble because they seemed to be in full control. And then you remember this team can't play defense. Before you know it, they're out of it. And we're talking about the freaking Spurs that are contending to be in this potential contest.
Well, yeah, Zion Williamson being limited the first few games, which I didn't think we were aware of, really hurt because that one game that he did it, I think it was against the Grizzlies. He came out of the game 6 minutes to go. I was like, all right, he's done. Because I had the Grizzlies that game, and he came back with 3 minutes left, and he took over. I mean, he was so difficult to stop. So I understand why people wanted to see the Pelicans. They are a fun team to watch, but I didn't understand why we're just writing off Portland when this is a team that made the Western Conference Finals last year, gets Nurkic back, gets Collins back, and again, I just love watching Lillard play. So it's that shiny toy syndrome where everyone wants the new thing, the new team, and we kind of forget about Portland. And I'm not saying Portland is going to win. First of all, they got to get by Memphis, beat them twice. I think they will. I think the first game might be tough, though. I could see them losing, but I wanted Portland the whole time. The Pelicans will have their time. They'll have their chance next year. Zion is obviously exciting to watch, but I wanted Portland the whole time. If you want the best series from an NBA perspective, and if you want the best challenge for the Lakers, it's Portland. The Pelicans were never going to beat the Lakers. And I'm not saying Portland will, but they absolutely have a better shot with their experience from last year and a guy like Damian Lillard. If that game stays close and the ball's in his hands, we know he'll pull up from anywhere and probably hit that three.
Would you say that Damian Lillard has the exact same impact like Reggie Miller did in the 1990s from that clutch factor?
I think it's more because because I think he could do more things, even
they
yesterday
shot similarly from the free throw line because they both took a lot of contact because teams would have to start doubling them. So they both were shooting in that 88 to 90% area their entire career. I mean, hitting threes from all over. We've seen them both do it. Attitude, absolutely. Maybe Reggie Miller talked a little bit more trash, whereas when Damian Lillard hits the big shot, then he'll talk trash to whoever's in his vicinity.
But he's also a good facilitator, too. I mean, the Nets were trying to get the ball out of his hands quite a bit. And it goes to show you how much they feared Lillard. They said, you know what? We'd rather have McCollum and Melo taking open shots rather than Lillard taking shots from 40 feet. Like, we want the ball out of his hands. Let those guys take it. If they beat us, fine. And he was doing what he could to get the ball in their hands. And they just missed a lot of open threes, Portland, especially late in the game. And we know that's what they do. They're going to take a lot of threes. They're going to push the tempo. They're not a good defensive team, and that's what's going to cost them in the end.
Yes, and even with Hassan Whiteside, still not a good defensive team. You would think at some point it's like, okay, the Nets have two guys who are scoring right now, and their names are Karis LeVert, who's the obvious one, and Joe Harris. And Joe Harris is scoring on them when they get inside. You would think that they would just focus on them and let, anyone else on that team beat them. Let Garrett Temple shoot your lights out. But instead, that's what they did. And that's how some of these teams are in modern day NBA. They'll be like, you know what? We got Damian Lillard, prolific scorer. He cancels out Karis LeVert. So we'll just let Karis LeVert do his thing, guard the other guys, make sure Lillard's hitting his shots and getting open enough. Personally, that's not how I would handle it if I were an NBA coach. But this is why, Ronis, that you get to spend your time with me during the day and at night, and I'm not out there trying to be Tom Thibodeau getting a contract.
Yeah, because you know that you'll come up empty if that is the case.
Oh, wow, thank you.
But yeah, I mean, the Portland had foul trouble too. They had 3 guys with 5 fouls, and you could see Trent was trying to stay in the game and, let everyone buy him. But look what Portland's done these last few games. I mean, 134 points, 134, 124, 117, 125. I mean, this is what they do. They're going to put up a lot of points. At the same time, look at what they've given up. 133, 131, 121, 122. So
can I ask this question then? Because I'm looking on the DraftKings Sportsbook. and I'm seeing the over-under at 232.5 as of right this second for the first game of the qualifying round between Memphis and Portland for tomorrow. Dude, we talked about this a little bit earlier. I'm loving this total so much. I don't think it's going to be any kind of defensive stalwart. They've had enough reps playing in the bubble, both these teams. I'm thinking it's going over.
It seems that way, which, when you look at first glance and you feel that, it kind of feels a little like something's wrong here, because I see this line going up. I think the money's going to come in on the over. These teams play in the bubble, and it was 140 to 135. That was not an overtime game, right? I don't think it was.
I don't think so either.
But the Grizzlies scoring has been down, which is probably why, they scored 119 against the Bucks. Bucks didn't play anyone. They scored 107 against the Celtics, who are a great defensive team. 89 against the Raptors. 99, great defensive team. Thunder, they scored 121 and 1. So most of their games, that's probably why, is their games have been good, have been really low scoring lately. But the Portland's just not stopping anyone at this point. So my initial intake, without kind of digging further, is to go with the over. I see this number rising. The game's 2:30 p.m. Saturday. So yeah, if you like the over, now is the time to get in.
You have to.
This number's going up. It's going up.
For sure. And I'm looking at the spread as well. Right now, the spread is, and another one. Now, I missed out when I bet the spread for Portland in the Nets game, where it was 10.5 by the time I locked in my bet. This time, it's at 6. And, even though what I think, look, the Nets, who do they have that's going to score? And then that happened. Portland was losing most of the game. Now with Memphis, who's been competing this entire time, they do have Ja Morant and Joe Val, who are going to be the two big scorers of this game from Memphis. Are you even looking at the spread at this point? Because for me, if I'm going to pick between betting the over or betting Portland -6, I'm going to bet the over on this game at what it is currently at 232.5.
Yeah, I prefer the over. And if I am taking the numbers, I would take the Grizzlies getting 6, because I think everyone's going to be on Portland. They're the hot team. The Grizzlies have really played poorly. And I think Ja Morant made a comment that they were being disrespected. That's what happens when you play like you did, though. They were 2-6. They did not look good at times. And again, they got a win because the Bucks sat everyone. It's not like they went out there and, dominated a really good Bucks team. So that's why. But it is recency biased. And we did see Portland, struggle. And Portland hasn't been blowing teams out. Let's remember that. That's the other issue here. When you look on the Portland side, do I think they win? Yes, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Grizzlies came out and played very well here. But Portland's been excellent against the spread, but they haven't had lines like this. They beat the Nets by 3. They beat the Dallas by 3. They beat the Sixers by 3. Lost to the Clippers by 5. Beat Denver by 10. Rockets by 8. And even the Grizzlies, when they played them here to open the bubble, they beat them by 5. So right now, I would take the Grizzlies getting 6.
Let's talk about some of these other NBA playoff series, because, Ronis, do you know what jersey this is right here that I have on?
Yes, the Toronto Raptors.
Yes, why do you call them Raptors? They are
I like the Raptors,
NBA champions and 2 second seed.
Are you hopping on the bandwagon now?
I am hopping on the bandwagon.
Why don't you go move to Toronto?
Okay, you know what, dude? Maybe I will. Maybe it's fun up there. I've been there one time. I'm not hopping on the bandwagon that I'm putting my bet that they win the championship. I'm personally rooting for them to go to the championship because I am hella impressed with what this team has done. People are forgetting, yes, I recognize they don't have Kawhi Leonard anymore. They've done a pretty damn good job without him, though, considering that someone on this team, maybe even multiple people at some point or another, were hurt along the way. We're just seeing this team at full strength because of stoppage. And to be able to still be a top 2 team in the Eastern Conference, that's very impressive to me. And it shows that they have strong depth.
No, they do. They're a good team. They absolutely have a shot. I think Boston has a shot as well to knock off Milwaukee. And that's going to be the key because I think we will see Toronto-Boston in the semis. And that's going to be a hell of a series, man. That's really going to be a good series.
Ronis, I'm thinking that series could be, I would say, you would say that the Eastern Conference semis between the Sixers and the Raptors was the most fun series, right, of the playoffs last year?
It was up there. Yeah. I mean, it went
Right.
game 7, came down to a last second shot with
Right.
Kawhi getting that bounce. I mean, that was fun. Yeah.
I think we're due for this exact kind of series again between those two in the second round. I am thirsty for this series. I cannot